The story starts in a shopping mall. A wealthy girl named Sarah was being bothered by her former boyfriend. During this, some coffee got spilled on her costly high-heeled shoes. Just as she was feeling upset and unsure what to do, a young man suddenly came and stood in front of her. He bent down on one knee and began to wipe the dirty mark from her shoes using his own shirt. When her ex-boyfriend saw this, it made him even more furious. Then, Sarah asked the young man if he would like to go on a date with her, but he was distracted, looking at the bags for sale on the counter, and he told her no. Seeing that he was more interested in the bags than in her, Sarah acted on a sudden impulse. She took out her special black and gold credit card and bought every single one of the designer bags right there. The next day, she went straight to his house with a proposal. Her parents were shocked, wondering why their daughter had become so serious. Actually, this girl Sarah was the heir to a large business empire, but after her parents' divorce, her stepbrother became a major competitor for her inheritance. Now Sarah suspected her stepbrother was having an affair with an actress. While investigating, an odd guy appeared. When Sarah refused to accept his help, the guy said something she couldn't refuse. Poor Sarah had to fold bedsheets with him. Slowly, the distance between them reduced, and Sarah couldn't focus on her investigation. It was revealed that the guy's name was Yunhao, and the actress had trapped Sarah to stop her. One day, Sarah went to a cafe where all the single girls were looking at one guy. She saw that it was Yunhao, who was working as a barista. Initially, she ignored him, but when she was given a discount twice at the billing and a heart was drawn on her coffee cup, she smiled. From that day on, wherever Sarah went, Yunhao seemed to appear. Even at the mall, he appeared in front of her and silently gave her a red rose. Sarah was confused, wondering if this was some new flirting style. A few days later, while Sarah was working in her office, there was a commotion outside. A delivery boy barged in without the secretary's permission. Sarah got a little angry, but the delivery boy insisted that he would give the letter only to the actual recipient, and even demanded to see Sarah's ID. Irritated, Sarah slammed the ID on the table, but the next moment she realized that the delivery boy was none other than Yunhao. Now Sarah really began to suspect that this guy was up to something, but poor Yunhao was also misunderstood. His dream was to become a priest one day, and to fulfill this dream, he was working multiple jobs. But the story of Sarah and Yunhao didn't end there. Actually, Sarah's father had come from a rich family as a son-in-law, which made him work even harder to establish his place. But being a powerful woman, Sarah was often judged by others. One day, Sarah attended a shareholder meeting at the company where she felt her talent was finally being accepted, but the old businessmen were making cheap jokes instead of recognizing her talent. Hearing all this, Sarah felt deeply insulted, but she couldn't confront the shareholders. In her anger, she started venting her emotions while washing her car. That's when she saw Yunhao there. Yunhao said he would pay for the car wash, but he only asked for a coffee in return. Sarah agreed to buy him a coffee. But when they sat at the cafe, Sarah ordered steak for herself while Yunhao just watched. Feeling sorry, Sarah didn't share her feelings, but she asked Yunhao why she kept running into him everywhere. This coincidence seemed strange to anyone, but Yunhao's real dream was to become a priest, which was like becoming a hermit. His mother didn't agree with this at all, and they had a huge fight. In the end, Yunhao left home and decided to work hard to financially secure his family. One day, on the other hand, Sarah, despite being a billionaire, was careless with her life. Her luxurious mansion had become a complete mess. One day, when she saw how dirty the house had become, she immediately called a cleaning service and demanded they send 10 housekeepers. But when the cleaner arrived, Sarah was shocked. The company had sent only one guy, and he was very strong. And this guy was none other than Yunhao. However, Yunhao didn't even know that the messy house was actually Sarah's. Upon seeing the room, he thought now he understood why the client asked for a powerful cleaner. He started his work, and Sarah was impressed by his organizing skills. After everything was perfect, when Yunhao was about to leave, he noticed that the chandelier in the house was broken. He thought he'd help out, but with one mistake, the entire chandelier fell and shattered into pieces. Now Yunhao was in shock. How much would this ultra-luxury chandelier cost? Sarah returned home, and once again it was proven how small the world is. The chandelier that Yunhao had broken was worth a large amount of money. Yunhao said he would repay the money by working under Sarah, but she immediately refused and said he should just give the money directly. However, Yunhao insisted that he would come every day to clean the house until the debt was cleared. Sarah was a little doubtful about hiring a guy as a housekeeper, but Yunhao casually mentioned that he was about to become a priest, and he had no interest in women. Hearing this, Sarah thought that the messy house was now perfectly clean, and with her busy schedule, having a helper would be useful, so she agreed. The next day, they went to the supermarket together to buy everything needed for the house. But seeing them, no one would believe they were employer and employee. They looked like a couple. Soon, Yunhao was stopped by one of his ex-colleagues. Sarah began to notice how many different jobs this guy had done, because wherever they went, someone seemed to recognize him. Usually calm, Sarah was now becoming quite curious. That day, there was another high-level business meeting. Some old shareholders began with the same old talk, saying women were only meant to look good and weren't fit for leadership. Sarah tried to control her anger, but when she saw they wouldn't even let her serve drinks just because she was a woman, she felt even more hurt and left the meeting. These shareholders had probably forgotten that Sarah had a stepbrother, Zhu. Even though they often clashed when it came to insulting Sarah, Zhu reacted immediately. The next day, he directly warned the shareholders that if they wanted to keep working at the company, they had to respect Sarah, otherwise they would be shown the door. And that wasn't enough. Later that night, Zhu entered another shareholders gathering and openly warned them again. If anyone mistreated Sarah or forced her to serve drinks just because she was a woman, it wouldn't be good for them. Saying this, he left in his usual attitude-filled style. When Sarah got home that day, she was so tired she didn't even have the strength to remove her makeup. But her smart and handsome housekeeper, Yunhao, immediately went into help mode. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was Zhu. Seeing her brother, Sarah panicked and immediately asked Yunhao to hide. If he found out that she had a guy as a housekeeper, he wouldn't believe it. Yunhao hid in the bedroom with a small puppy, but just then, a loud bark was heard. Zhu understood everything, but jokingly said he needed to go inside and check. Sarah nervously refused, and seeing her nervousness, Zhu smiled and left. After he left, Yunhao quietly came out, apologized, and gave Sarah a beautiful candy box as a gift. Now the house, which once felt empty, had become lively because of Yunhao. He not only organized Sarah's home perfectly, but also started taking care of her life. Sarah shared all her business frustrations with him without hesitation. But one day, Sarah started to doubt. Did Yunhao have another agenda? When she directly asked him, Yunhao replied without hesitation, yes. He wanted her money. Actually, Yunhao was a church volunteer. His dream was to inspire Sarah to help the poor. Hearing this, Sarah laughed and said, if you want me to donate, you'll have to give me one of your smiles. I like your smile. Yunhao immediately gave a cute smile, and just like that, Sarah's heart melted. The next day, a donation was made to the church. Yunhao's mentor was amazed and told him that his smile was a special gift and should be used wisely. From then on, Yunhao occasionally showed his charming smile to Sarah, and each time new gifts were sent to the church. The donations were only for ration items at first, but slowly they expanded to laptops and smartphones. Through this process, the biggest change happened in Sarah. The once cold businesswoman slowly transformed into a cute and bubbly girl. While her queen-like attitude remained, she developed an innocence inside her. One day, Yunhao's little puppy suddenly ran away. Sarah and Yunhao chased after it, and when they reached the door, a famous actress appeared. The atmosphere became tense. This was the same actress that Sarah had once investigated due to her brother Zhu's love life. Seeing Yunhao living in Sarah's house, a misunderstanding immediately formed. Sarah was about to speak, but just then Yunhao pulled her inside. She was shocked, but then Yunhao gave her another shock. He said that the chandelier he had broken wasn't actually that expensive. He gave money and gifts and officially said goodbye to Sarah. Sarah had 1,000 emotions inside, but she had no excuse to stop him. Then, for the first time ever, Sarah, who never expressed her feelings in front of anyone, asked an unexpected question to a guy who was 12 years younger than her. On her birthday, her father sent a candle plant, which meant happiness will come. Sarah felt a slight warmth in her heart. The next day was a family gathering, and she thought maybe this was for her birthday. But when she saw the actress there, her mood shifted. It turned out that this celebration was for her brother Zhu and his girlfriend. However, Zhu then took out a gift and gave it to Sarah. It meant he hadn't forgotten her birthday. After the party, when Sarah was leaving, the actress stopped her. There was still a misunderstanding between them, but what she said hurt Sarah inside. As if she had found a reason or was waiting for an excuse, Sarah immediately called Yunhao. But Yunhao said he was at work. Hearing this, Sarah made another call. Yunhao didn't pay much attention to it, but soon a girl came to him and said, "Your boss called for you." He tried to explain that he was at work, but then the girl directly said that the shop would be closing today. Yunhao and the shopkeeper were completely surprised when they heard that his boss had bought the shop. Sitting at the dinner table with Sarah, Yunhao thought that Sarah was upset again because of those old men. But Sarah explained that this time it was because of her family. Her birthday party, which she thought she was included in, had nothing to do with her. Yunhao nervously said, "I saw your ID. Your birthday wasn't today." Sarah quickly clarified, "My real birthday is different from what's on the ID." Yunhao kept this in his mind. He called the waitstaff and asked to pay the bill. Sarah refused, but Yoonhao insisted on his point. That evening, when Sarah left work, Yoonhao was waiting outside near her office. Sarah felt a bit strange that Yoonhao was being so proactive, but then Yoonhao pulled out a birthday cake. He thought that Sarah hadn't had cake on her birthday, and he wanted to make it up to her. When Sarah saw Yoonhao with a cake and candle, she felt a strange warmth inside. Sarah said, "I received a flower on my birthday, whose flower language was happiness will come." Yoonhao was shocked to hear this, and his expression became even more complicated. Sarah took a deep breath and felt like she understood Yoonhao's emotions. Without saying anything further, Sarah turned around and walked away. Yoonhao stood holding the cake as if he had been rejected. Back at the office, Sarah didn't react the usual way. She didn't get anxious, cry, or feel sad. Instead, she joined her hands and prayed as if she was wishing for Yoonhao back. Yoonhao, still unable to understand Sarah's rejection, kept turning her words over in his mind. Passing by a flower shop, he couldn't resist his curiosity. He asked the shopkeeper which flower had the flower language meaning coming happiness. The shopkeeper showed him Kandula Golden Marigold and said that this flower had another meaning, compassionate love and sadness of separation. At that moment, Sarah was also looking at the same flower and reading the same meaning. Then one day, Sarah saw Yoonhao coming to meet her again, and in his hand was that same golden marigold. As soon as Sarah approached him, Yoonhao extended the flower toward her. Sarah's hope quickly turned into disappointment. Yoonhao's gesture was so painful for her because she understood that his kindness was actually hurting her even more. This time, Sarah didn't waste any more time. She turned around and walked away, but Yoonhao said something. Sarah gave him a deep look and then replied. Yoonhao was still confused. Maybe for some time his feelings for Sarah had changed, but this change was very difficult for him, and he decided he would cross this hurdle himself. An unexpected guest arrived at Sarah's office today. He was a man who had intentionally come to give Sarah a special message. His name was Choi-ko, who was going back to South Korea. When Sarah heard this, her face became quite complex. Sarah knew that despite being born to her father and his ex-wife, she was a contender for the inheritance, but her brother Zhu, who was the real grandson of Chairman Lin, was more eligible. Now if Sarah had to compete with her brother, she would need some external support. And Choi-ko was that support which had been discussed earlier for marriage. Sarah felt that this marriage was just a business deal, but now that Yoonhao had entered her life, she was confused. If she didn't marry, she would lose the inheritance fight with her brother. But if she married, what would happen to Yoonhao? Looking at the candle flower in her office, Sarah gathered the courage from within. She immediately called Yoonhao. Yoonhao was at church at that moment talking to the priest about his feelings. The priest told him that maybe if he wore the priest's robe, he would find answers to his decisions. Yoonhao took the priest's advice and began walking toward the church entrance in the priest's robe. At that moment, Sarah also arrived at the church, and seeing Yoonhao made her heart soften a little. She thought maybe Yoonhao had made his decisions, and now he was ready. Sarah watched Yoonhao as he came down the stairs, and tears filled her eyes. Yoonhao realized that Sarah needed to understand, but at that moment, Sarah stopped listening. Yoonhao followed Sarah and arrived at her house. Sarah felt like he was trying to justify his actions, but Yoonhao said, "I know you're married. Your fiancé is Choi-ko." Sarah's face changed instantly because while she was indeed in a relationship with her fiancé, she had never shared her true feelings. At that moment, Choi-ko also entered. He was Sarah's fiancé, and with his royal attitude, he looked at both of them. Sarah knew that this wasn't the time to talk, so she told Yoonhao to leave. Choi-ko entering and showing his dominance reminded Sarah that everything was business to him. He told her that he had a weak point about Zhu. Sarah thought this information might be important. Sarah went to see her brother Zhu and looked at the medical records Choi-ko had given. Zhu had serious face blindness after an accident. If Sarah had to do something against her brother, this could be a fatal flaw. But when Sarah realized this, her heart cleared. She took a stand against Choi-ko. Sarah then changed her stance in both business and personal life. Choi-ko didn't like this change, and in anger, he threw money on the road. Sarah felt a bit of hatred seeing this. At that moment, Sarah decided to invite Yoonhao on a date. But when Yoonhao saw a brand new bag in the shop, he slightly ignored Sarah's invitation. But Sarah took out her black card and bought all the high-end bags. Then both Yoonhao and Sarah went to a small street stall. Sarah's mood was still a bit mixed, but her heart had softened a little, as if something old and new was blending together. Sarah's mind was a bit sad as she thought that Yoonhao had now become a priest, so she was trying to show her emotions very casually. When Yoonhao noticed her behavior, he directly said to her. Sarah softly replied that she was a bad and fake woman, and she just wanted them to remain friends. Yoonhao smiled a little, and Sarah just kept looking at him. The next day, Sarah told everyone at her family's banquet about her decision. She openly told everyone that she would not marry Choi-ko as she didn't love him at all. Sarah's father supported her decision and happily stood by her side. Sarah's brother had already known that Sarah's decision wasn't just about not marrying Choi-ko, but also about secretly doing something against her brother. This revelation lightened everyone's hearts, and the wedding obstacle was removed. After dinner, Sarah and her brother were leaving the house. It was the first time Sarah had genuinely called her brother and expressed her decisions. Sarah thought that now she didn't need to fight her brother for the inheritance, as she had something else in her heart. Another good decision. A few days later, Choiko found out the wedding was off. He angrily went to Sarah's office. Sarah stood calmly and told him that she wanted to break the marriage. Choiko got very angry and said, "I was only helping you because I thought you were helpless." And then he threatened her. But when Sarah didn't respond, Choiko held back his anger and left the office. Sarah quietly looked at Yunhao, who was still firm in his decision. Sarah's face had a smile. Her decision was absolutely right. Yunhao went home and talked to his family after a long time. His family, who had previously opposed his decision to become a priest, supported him now. Yunhao felt a bit uneasy as he found the moment uncomfortable. He said nothing and went to his room. His parents didn't say anything, but his sister understood everything. His sister immediately asked Yunhao if he was in a relationship with someone. She showed a lot of curiosity and bothered Yunhao. In the meantime, a luxury car stopped near Yunhao and his sister. His sister saw the car and then noticed a beautiful woman getting out of it. She thought, "Who is this?" And surprised, said Yunhao chose such a beautiful girl for himself. Sarah thought that her brother would leave Yunhao, so she felt little worried. Yunhao was confused, but he had a good time with Sarah in the car. They made their relationship official and went out for dinner. There, they discussed their future plans. Yunhao said that now that he wasn't becoming a priest, he was thinking about finding another job. When Sarah heard that Yunhao was thinking about becoming a judge, she was a little shocked, as judicial exams in South Korea are very difficult. But Yunhao smiled and told her that he had graduated from the law department of Seoul University, so it was quite feasible for him. Sarah realized that this was why Yunhao's family didn't want him to become a priest, because it's hard for any family to accept such a career choice for their child. After dinner, Sarah offered to drop Yunhao off at home. They talked about meeting each other's parents, and Yunhao felt that seeing Sarah's family's status might put a lot of pressure on him. When Sarah came out to drop Yunhao off, she said, "You didn't pay your car fare." Yunhao was a little confused, but he finally decided to drop Sarah off. The next day, when Sarah went to pick Yunhao up from school, a classmate caught her attention. Sarah initially wanted to ignore him, but seeing Yunhao, the classmate became a little jealous. Sarah noticed that Yunhao didn't like his jealousy anymore. Sarah understood that during this time their relationship had shifted. Now Yunhao was feeling possessive about Sarah, and Sarah thought that misunderstandings could arise in the future. So she decided to take a day off to give Yunhao some space and visit his house to talk to his parents. When Sarah went to Yunhao's house, she directly told his parents that they needed to talk about their profession. This was going to shock them, but Sarah's aim was to show Yunhao that their relationship was no longer just between them, but had become a formal commitment. After this, Sarah and Yunhao's lives became more comfortable and relaxed, and they were solving the pressure between their families first before solving it between themselves. They started spending time together in their own world, and now they weren't afraid of anything. And with that, this story ends.